It's odd how difficult it was to come up with 5 people.
Yep.
5.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse 2 of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the Professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Hey guys, how'd you like the new intro?
Love it. Love it.
What is
I don't know, Keith, are you eating again, Keith?
No, I'm not eating.
Okay.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
No, it's all right. It kind of reminds me of an animated, like Bill Cosby when he did Fat Albert in The Gang.
Hey, hey, hey.
Not that you're Fat Albert. No, that's not what I'm saying. That's just kind of the animation style that reminded me of. I always love Fat Albert. So, all right, guys, this is GeekyKOOL presents. We are on episode. Oh gosh, I forgot to look. I think it's 17, 18. I'll look here real quick. We'll clarify that. But we are going to be talking about comic book villains tonight. Joining us on here is Mr. Keith himself from Popculture Minefield. Thank you for joining us, Keith. And of course, Shpoo from, and he's gone now too. Oh, that was kind of fast. Okay. Skallywag Productions. So we're glad you guys are all here with us. Ace is having some technical problems, but she'll be right here back. No, she's gone now. So I don't know. But by the way, this is the way. Got a new shirt. So got a new shirt. Had to say it. So all right, guys. So I want to jump in. Keith's not going to be able to stay with us super long, so I wanted to jump in and go over our top 5 list of villains. And as Shpoo was saying earlier, that list was difficult to come up with.
Very hard.
Yeah.
I prefer the villains over the good guys, and to come up with just 5 of them, I'm like, well, the ones that I love are either obscure or, I mean, your mind instantly pops to who's popular. But
Right,
then it's like,
right.
This guy's way too popular that even if I did love him, I wouldn't use him because of that.
Right.
But I like the more personal villains. So yeah.
No, I'm with you. And I'm still trying to get your guys' pictures uploaded here. So we will get that going. But I will, we're going to have Keith tell us his first one, and then we will go from there. What do you got for us, Keith?
Let's see. I have, you know what? I'm going to start at the top because there's a reason for this.
Okay.
I'm going to start with my number 1.
Okay, we can do that.
And the reason why I wanted to go with my number 1 was because, look, there's nobody like Darkseid. I'm sorry, but there is nobody like that character.
Oh, yeah.
And because he was created by the king himself, Jack Kirby,
Right.
he is just the ultimate villain for me in all of comics because he is a force of nature. And every villain that has come since then takes aspects of what he already has. That doesn't mean, he is better than all the other villains, but for me, he is the complete package because he has an entire planet, he has armies, he has the way Kirby designed everything in relation to this character and all the characters. There's a balance there. It all makes sense. And I'm just one of those fools that is just, I cannot wait until Zack Snyder's Justice League comes out so I can see some of the stuff that they have, including, I hope, the Desaad scene if they release David Ayer's Suicide Squad, because I want to see also the designs for Desaad. And Darkseid, number 1. He's got to be number 1. So I'm sorry, I'm running off with the mouth now. So
No, that's good. That's why we're on here. That's what we want to talk about. He is a great villain. definitely one who's been in the limelight at various times for DC. In main, the current time, and also in the future, he's a villain that shows up in Legion of Superheroes. Way, like thousands of years in the future, he's one of the main guys there doing things. The whole the Dark Seed saga, that's phenomenal. So, all right. Who wants to go with their number one? Let's go that route since we're doing that.
Are we starting top and then going down?
I guess so, because Keith started us off that way. We'll go that way, and I will get pictures up for you guys as they come up here. So,
well, my number one. Anybody who knows me at all should not come as any surprise whatsoever. Mr. Edward Nygma himself.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
I mean, as far as a physical opponent, of course he's not up there by any means. But the fact that he is on an intellectual level that not only puts him pretty darn parallel with Batman. He's the only villain who's ever escaped from Supermax. Probably my favorite moment is whenever he figured out who Batman was, and Batman basically just says, what do you do if there's an elephant in your refrigerator? And he's like, what are you talking about? He says, what do you do if there's an elephant in your refrigerator? You get a new refrigerator. Everybody knows that. Exactly. That's why you won't tell anybody. A riddle that everybody knows the answer to is no fun. I love that.
That's good.
That is a great, yeah. Yeah, the Riddler's a fun character. Yeah.
And he's the only real Batman villain who's ever, on multiple occasions, tried to actually heal, get over his psychoses. He's tried to did go good for a little bit. Granted, that was because of some amnesia and stuff, but still, and it was awesome when he did. He got to play a private detective for a while, actually riding around with Batman. He's like, this is the first time I've ever been conscious in this car. It's great. It's fantastic. I love it. I can't wait to see what Paul Dano is going to do with the character. I think if anybody, Matt Reeves seems to have a lot of respect for the characters and the casting. Not somebody I would have thought of, but I love the casting. Love it. So hopefully he does it justice.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh. Ace disappeared on us again. I don't know where she went. And she's gone again. Hopefully she'll be right back with us. So I'll go with my number one while we're waiting on Ace to join us. My number one is also a DC villain. So I know I told you that I don't really have too many of those on my list, but I'm going with the guy that single-handedly took out the new Teen Titans. I'm talking about Deathstroke. He is my favorite villain of all time. Basically, I love the new Teen Titans. I loved when they introduced him, the reason why he's angry and becomes kind of pretty chaotic and crazy. I just find him to be a awesome character and who can go very bad, but also end up teaming up with the good guys sometimes. So he's if I was going to plan an attack on somebody or to take somebody down, instead of Batman, who knows all that stuff, I'm going with Deathstroke because he's just as apt to do it, and he's not as apt to pull punches. He's just going to take someone down hard, fast, and just kill somebody if he needs to. So Deathstroke is probably the one that I would fear the most, even though he does have superpowers, super strength. He had a super serum, kind of very Captain America-esque. And of course, I love that basically Deadpool is based off of Deathstroke. Even their last names were the same. Yeah. So, to me, he's, I had a, okay, go away. Had a fantasy football, but instead of football players, it was drafting superheroes. And I've actually talked about doing this. Did this several years ago, and he was my coach because I figured if anybody could coach a team to win, it would be Deathstroke. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
He is the one character that I would love to see a movie, a live action movie that you don't really need to have any heroes or other villains with. You could do an entire movie of just Deathstroke the Terminator just going off. Oh,
I was so excited with the whole Joe Manganiello cast as him. I
right?
Right? Really wanted to see where that was going to go. So upset about it. I'm going to go back and see what's going on with Ace. I'll be right back.
All right. Okay. Sounds good. In the meantime, we'll have Keith go ahead and share his number 2 on his list.
Okay. Number 2, if I remember correctly, I had Vandal Savage.
You did.
And to me, Vandal Savage is one of those characters that in my opinion, could easily be as big a Marvel villain as he is a DC villain.
Yeah.
Because he's had nothing. Yay! He's had nothing but time. And like Batman, you give this guy time and he will destroy you and everything you've ever thought about loving.
Yeah. Well, there's been 2 shows now that have used Vandal Savage as at least a season-long villain. Young Justice did it.
Very well. Did it. And Young Justice has continued to use him as a villain. And let me at least just say, season 3 DVD, most excellent.
Nice.
I have not got to see season 3 yet. I have not seen season 3. So literally the last thing I saw was the end of season 2, Vandal Savage walking up to Darkseid, and it was like, oh dear God, this just got real.
This is real plus. And let me just say to everyone that worked on this, most excellent job. This right here is the blueprint for how you really construct DC stories and heroes, because everybody and everything works in this really, really well. Really, really well.
Like the first 2 seasons, that I have no doubt.
Oh, look, this Batman the Animated Series is still my all-time favorite DC series, but this is closing in on number 2 right here. So, but not to take away too much from what the main issue is right now.
We need to get number 1.
We need to get your number 1. So,
yep. All right, Ace. Who's your number 1? Who's on our list here?
My number 1 is the God of Mischief himself. Most people will know him from Tom Hiddleston's performance, but it's Loki.
All right, there we go. Well, the guy who actually caused the Avengers to assemble, both in the comics and in the movies.
He's not your traditional evil villain. He is just, he's just a troublemaker, and you see glimpses of him having a heart of gold, but at the same time, I like the bad boy. He's a bad boy. He's charming. I do.
That's why she's dating a supervillain.
My number 1. I love him so much. So.
No judgment here. No judgment here.
I was trying to make it look like I'm looking at her. It's weird because I'm looking at a wall.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah.
Keith, you were saying?
Well,
I gotta look. Yeah, there we go.
I have to say that Loki is too much fun. Loki is just way too much fun. So
he doesn't take himself seriously any way. And I mean, here's the thing, my list, I really tried to get a girl to get on this list, and I just couldn't.
You did. I can vouch.
I have no girls on this list, and that hurt me a little bit. But at the same time, I'm like, I have a very specific thing that I like with my villains, and I like them to be intelligent or have like massive powers. And unfortunately, a lot of the girl villains aren't written like that. But Loki, he has these powers, but he has this knack for weaponizing his abilities, like by tricking, and he uses way more. And I love a smart man. So yeah, if Loki appeared here, whether it's Tom Hiddleston Loki or just Loki from the comics, I feel like the Riddler might get like left for a little bit.
We should talk.
He's on my list, dude. He's on my list.
Ooh, well.
On my list, okay?
All right. Do you want to?
So he did his number 2. So does that bring me to my number 2? Is that where we're at?
Let's do your number 2. Let's do that.
Okay. My number 2 is my only Marvel villain, and one of what I feel is one of the most, if not the most, underappreciated Marvel villain, Mr. Sinister, Nathaniel Essex himself. I actually read a quote when I was trying to do some kind of backstory stuff. I was like, when you really ask the question, what are some of the best Sinister storylines? There's really not a lot of them that jump out. I mean, there's the Messiah Complex, stuff like that, but the Madeline Pryor stuff, all that. But the quote that I saw was a guy that was like, it's not that there are necessarily a lot of great Sinister stories, but there are a lot of bad X-Men stories that are made good by the fact that Sinister shows up. So if no Mr. Sinister, you got no Gambit. No Mr. Sinister, you got no Legacy Virus. No Mr. Sinister, you got no Cable. I mean, he's a fantastic villain. They need to bring him into the movies. Please, MCU, because I have faith that you'll do him justice where I did not have faith that Fox would have.
Yes!
Magneto movies. It's tired and done with. Give me Nathaniel Essex. I mean, a man named Nathaniel who can still be threatening? That's impressive. Sinister. There you go.
No, I agree with you. Mr. Sinister's on my top 10 list, but he did not make my top 5. So, yeah, I completely understand. He's a great villain.
I can't help but wonder if we'll have any crossover. That's
I'm sure we probably will. In fact, I know of at least a couple that are crossing over there. So, but yes. And, of course, if you hear somebody that's crossing over on one of yours, go ahead and jump in there also, because that's the way it's supposed to work. Well, Ace, do you want to give us your number 2?
My number 2 is the baddest father there is, and that would be Trigon, Raven's father.
That's another great Titans villain.
I love him, and Shpoo was actually asking me why I loved him, and I gave him the right answer, I guess. And it is just because, one, he loves creating hells on Earth. He does, and the entire Justice League could not defeat him. Raven had to capture him, imprison him, and his power set is just amazing. And he is just pure evil.
Yeah.
But he has this badass daughter too, so it's a thing. No, Trigon was. I've always loved him. I love Raven. She almost made my superhero list, last week, and so yeah, no, I love Raven. And so with Trigon, it's just that constant battle, and he is such an intricate part of her psyche that it fits in, and he's an interesting character on his own, but because of that dynamic, I feel like his character's better and her character's better, and it's a very unique thing, the way that they are written, and I just love him, so he is my number 2.
Hopefully one of you guys can answer this for me, because I cannot remember off the top of my head, but I remember this happened not too long ago where there was some big bad guy attacking in the DC world, and it was such a bad situation that Superman actually came up with the idea, release Trigon, because Trigon is the only one who can take this dude down, and they did. And I can't remember who that was.
I don't know.
That's
That.
going to drive me
That's
nuts.
crazy.
Yeah, it may not have been that recent, but yeah, I just remember there was like somebody, and they just could not get him down, and so they were like, release Trigon, and they did, and then had to basically convince Trigon to go back after it was over, and of course that didn't go so well. I don't remember who
I would
it was,
think
but
not.
I don't know. That's maybe I dreamt it. I don't know.
You know what? I like that premise. I like the fact that Superman's going, we should get Trigon. In my mind, that would be what, having Trigon go up against Doomsday.
Take this guy down.
Yeah,
that's gonna drive me nuts. I can't think of who it was.
well,
that is crazy, but that's interesting. But
thanks. Now he's going to be driven nuts.
I'm sure somebody on the web has that information. We're going to find that out. So, all right. So my number 2 villain is a Spider-Man villain.
Professor?
He's a Spider-Man villain, but probably not one you're thinking about. I'm going with the great hunter himself, Kraven.
I thought about using Kraven.
Yeah, Kraven to me is probably the best Spider-Man villain, because his whole point is to hunt Spider-Man. And he put Spider-Man on, and Kraven's Last Hunt's probably my favorite Spider-Man story. That thing is just phenomenal. Of where Kraven actually wins, buries him, puts on the costume, goes out as him. That is such a cool story. And at the end, kills himself. And of course, it's Marvel, so you've got to resurrect the villain after a certain time and let him do whatever. But that was such a great storyline. Unfortunately, he was used kind of poorly there for a while. He started off as a cool villain, and then got used very poorly. Got put in the Sinister Six, and just never really fit there. But a good writer really can make Kraven a really cool character. The really funny thing, he's very similar to my number 1. Him and Deathstroke have a lot in common. Both have super serum sort of stuff. Right. Both have abilities to hunt and shoot and do all sorts of stuff that's kind of outside the norm of supervillains. So I found that interesting.
Both would be kind of cool in a fight to the death.
Most definitely.
That would be something to see.
And given that Spider-Man Far From Home ended, if they don't use the obvious and use Kraven for part 3, then somebody at MCU is not thinking straight.
Well, I think it almost.
I mean, it makes most sense. Peter's been routed.
Well, the MCU can have all the ideas they want, but unfortunately, Sony gets to steer how that ship rolls.
Right, that's true.
Again, Kevin Feige's got all kinds of ideas, but Spider-Man is the purview of Sony. And if Sony tomorrow wanted to make a bunch of changes and have Spider-Man wear a tutu while fighting Kraven, that's what's really going to end up being filmed because, Sony. So.
Well, at least they're playing nice at the moment. So we'll just enjoy it while it lasts.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the MCU. There's nothing wrong with the MCU. This is all Sony. Every problem they've ever had is Sony. Every problem that they've had in that relationship has been the current CEO of Sony is just not someone who likes comic book movies. He doesn't get it. And before he was terrorizing Spider-Man, he was terrorizing the X-Men because he was the one that took the $20 million from the budget of the first X-Men film.
Mhm.
He just took it.
You know, a little chump change here and there. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, you know. but you know what? Tom has a nice link in my mind to my number 3 villain.
All right, let's go to number 3.
He has that same kind of way of thinking about things. Alexander Luthor is just one of those villains that I like the fact that he is a smart guy in terms of his scientific mind and knowledge. I also like the fact that he is the living embodiment of Gordon Gekko in how he pursues business. For a lot of us old timers, instead of Gekko, I would use J.R. Ewing.
Yeah.
The way that they wrote him in the Man of Steel miniseries, in my opinion, is the best way that anyone can truly understand and play the part of Lex Luthor. You know, if you can go back and find that miniseries, the whole thing in the diner encapsulates exactly who he is.
Or Man of Tomorrow is another good example.
That's another good example, but I like the one from Man of Steel more because he's playing with that waitress. He knows that the moment he even makes the offer, where he just randomly picks someone out, looks her in the eyes, and says, "You know, I'm leaving in 5 minutes. Why don't you come with me? Just get in the limo. We'll take off. I'll change your life."
Right.
And walks, you know, leaves the money, walks out to his limo, and just sits there and waits 4 minutes and leaves. And Mercy asks him why he does that. It's like, well, you know, it's ultimately his answer is like, in the end, it doesn't matter. You know, I get to play my games, but she has to live with this and the possibility of what could have been for the rest of her life. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I mean, you know,
evil.
I mean, that shouldn't, well, that's not, that is evil, but I mean, it's just, it's not even, he just does it. It just oozes from us, oozes from his pores, and he'll just mess with anyone. And I love that about this character because he knows who he is, and I like the interplay between him and Mercy and all the other characters that he deals with. I just love the character, especially the way that he's been molded to be since the 1980s. And I like his whole story arc. I like everything about the character. I do have my favorite people that have portrayed the part, and the people that I've been disappointed by.
Rosenbaum?
No. I'll give you a hint. You could probably watch this person right now in the CW, and that's all I'm going to say. I just never thought of him as, he's too squirrely. Luthor is a man's man. He's not a sniveling little, you know.
I know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. A says apparently Frozen, so she's joining me now.
All right, come on over.
We did not.
But the thing that it is hard to come up with a villain who is human in comics and who you wouldn't be tempted to find a way of juicing them up to go up against someone like Superman. Yet it works. It works. Right. And he's just so deliciously evil, but he's a non-mustache twirling type of evil. He's just simply everything he does. You ask him, what color is the sky? He'll look you right in your eyes and almost convince you that it's green.
Right.
It's just the way it works. And
shadowing one of my future ones here.
Well, then let's get to yours. What is your number 3?
My number 3, actually, what I have is number 3 on my list, and what I'm actually going to go with for my number 3, I'm going to move these around a little bit because I want to save. Since we went backwards from what I was expecting to, I'm going to save these 2 for last.
So, me too.
I'm going to jump off of Marvel, jump off of DC, and I'm going to jump over to Image Comics for a second. And a guy that we can currently even watch on television. Well, not currently,
Yeah.
but a man in his bat, Mr. Negan himself, the comic book version. I love what Jeffrey Dean Morgan has done with that character. Although the only difference between the two really is that Negan in the comics versus Negan in the show. Negan in the comics, way more brutal and way more hot-headed, way more take everything that Jeffrey Dean has done, amp it up to 11, and you got
Right.
Negan from the comic.
wow.
Love it.
That's a great choice. Yeah.
That is a great choice.
Like Keith is
Come
like,
in a little bit.
come in.
Yeah. We're like way up centered and it's bugging me. There we go.
Is that better?
That looks better.
He's like, it looks better. Oh my god. No, see, my phone completely froze. I have no idea what's going on with it today. So
That's
Wonderful, huh?
yeah. All right, so my number 3 brings in a Japanese pantheon to comics, which doesn't happen as often as I think it should. And he made his appearance in Thor Blood Oath, I think number 6, and that would be Chaos King.
And
Is that this one, I'm assuming?
Yes, that's that one.
All right. Because I wasn't sure which one this was. So, okay. Chaos King. So tell us about Chaos King, because I'm not familiar.
Chaos King is basically where the Earth is now, used to be a void. And he reigned over it. And then the Earth was created, and he is now trying to find ways to end it. He has taken out... basically, he is just the like, how do you put it? He's I wrote it down because I'm like, I know this. He's the void. He's the void.
The void.
He's
Uh-huh.
a personification of the void of nothingness.
He's the personification of what I'm like inside.
That's a true statement. You can see there's a theme with my but he's like his whole goal is to change existence. He doesn't want it to be he reigned this area when there was nothing, and he was the only one who lived here, and he's like, and now there's all these humans and there's all this stuff, and he just wants it back. And it's like, yeah. Oh my god.
Basically, the roommates that won't leave. We're the guests that won't leave.
So basically, he's in charge of 2020.
Right.
Right. He just wants to just be alone. And in order to be alone and get his existence back, he has to destroy everyone. And everything. And planets and everything. He just wants this giant void where he could live and reign happily. And so he makes chaos and terror. His power set is he's 1 billion years old. He's a god of nothing and everything. So
wait, is this the dude that they're talking about Christian Bale might be playing in Thor 4? No, seriously.
I don't know.
I think one of the rumors that I read was that it was Chaos King, if I'm not mistaken.
Christian Bale's going to play the Chaos King.
I mean, I don't know. It's a rumor. Like, we don't know.
I was going to say I would be a little disappointed in that. He's a Japanese pantheon. I think they should get a Japanese.
I don't know.
I mean,
it'll be a CG character. It'll
I
just, just
know.
be voicing it.
It's gonna bother me. It's gonna bother me. But no, he's awesome. Professor, you haven't heard of him. I would totally look him up and everything. He's just I love the gods, and I love like that whole aspect of bringing the gods and because in mythology, gods aren't always evil or aren't always good. Most of the time, they are evil, even when they're
right.
good gods. And so he's just the good gods, yeah. So I think he's adjusting lights. He's like, and he's grabbing it. So yeah, no, he's my number 3. He bounced from 4 to 3. I was trying to decide on those, but he's my number 3. I really, really enjoy him. So if you haven't read it, any of the comics that he's in, just read up on him. And the artwork for him is just beautiful and stunning because he is literally the Void. And so he has a little bit of Venom look to him, like they tend to make his mouth. But think of him as he's almost like Pennywise.
You know, whenever you actually, that was kind of something I thought about when you were describing like the origins of him was like the Void, and then Maturin got indigestion, and then
and then now there's a whole universe.
Just like
that does look terrible. I don't judge. I let him do his thing, and he's fine. I'm okay. Bad lighting or not, I'm not the girl in this relationship when it comes to lighting.
Well, what's weird is that like the lighting here during videos looks fine, but like for some reason on the phone, like if I use the lights that I normally use on camera, it's just a total whitewash of. I mean, it's just a blur. It's terrible.
I'm very pale, so it just makes me look even worse.
It does make it more pale, that's for sure. So yeah.
I told myself, and he agrees. That's yeah.
I'm just saying the lights make you look very pale. Not that anything wrong with pale. That doesn't bother me. So I like ginger, so pale's fine with me.
Yeah.
I like pale personally. So.
Yeah. So look,
I don't have to say that. I just do.
Professor, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is my favorite X-Men villain, and also not Magneto. It's the Juggernaut, the unstoppable Juggernaut, the opposite of Professor Xavier. So
I love Juggernaut. I think he's a great choice.
The fact that he was stepbrothers with Xavier and picked on him constantly and tried to cause him all those problems because his father hated him and loved Xavier. I mean, that's a really cool story. And the fact that his powers are so different than Xavier's powers, and that, good luck in stopping this guy. Pretty much you have to take off his helmet and hit him with a psychic burst.
Right.
I mean, you say his power set's so different. He's not technically a mutant, is he?
No, he's not. No, it's magic. It came from a magic amulet that he found.
Yeah.
See, he just wanted to be.
Yeah,
he did.
Brotherly love.
You know how that is, right, Keith?
Not love like that.
So, Juggernaut trivia question for you, and I could be completely wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure Wolverine's never actually done it. But who's the one character to actually be able to cut the helmet off?
That's a great question, because it wasn't. You're right. It's not Wolverine. He's tried.
Would you like a hint?
Yeah.
Think X-Force. Give up.
I do, because I can't remember which group of X-Force you're talking about. So,
really, I think original Team X-Force, if I'm not mistaken. Shatterstar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shatterstar.
I would not have guessed Shatterstar. That's interesting.
I was so upset when they brought him in for Deadpool 2 and then killed him off instantly. I'm like, no, he's such a cool character.
He was so upset by that he was like, no,
But the rest of them I could care less about. Kill the rest of them. But Shatterstar, keep him around for a while. He's awesome.
I agreed. I was seeing the same thing because I'm like, what are we doing? Why is Shatterstar dead?
That is an interesting episode for you. Underappreciated comic book heroes.
Yeah, I have a list. We talk about it all the time.
We will have to do that. So next week we are actually planning on our 5 favorite side characters. So maybe we do 5 underappreciated heroes afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, and why are almost all of them in the X-Men Fox movies?
As cameos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Before you kill them. All right.
No, it's a thing. It's a thing.
All right, Keith, who's your number 4?
Oh, man. I got to remember who I did put down as number 4. Number 4. Who did I put down as number 4?
Let me look here. We go to comments here, and that way I can tell you. You got the dictator himself as number 4.
Oh, yes. Yes. It is difficult to find a villain that personifies that nice balance between the righteous nature that he sees, the righteous mission that he has in his head, versus the way that everyone else sees him and what he does. And this guy is he's just bad. I mean, it's not even a sense of being twisted. He's just bad. He's just bad.
To see what MCU does with him.
That's right. It's got to be the Double D himself.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom. I mean, come on, kids. Doom is the way to go. He is the consummate Marvel villain. And I got to say that, as I was saying before we started the show, I grew up on both Marvel and DC. And for me, growing up, Dr. Doom was the villain that everybody should have to face because he was that good. You know, me growing up,
I faced everybody.
Oh yeah, at least more than once. But I mean, he's just the best villain. I mean, Dr. Doom versus Spider-Man, Dr. Doom versus the Avengers, Dr. Doom versus, everybody. And I still think Doom would have a good shot at pulling that one off. So, and Victor Von Doom is just great. Great character.
We have some crossover with this one. I actually recommended this one to her simply because of a quote that we recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we saw a thing with Stan Lee on it talking about Doom, and what he said was so very interesting. So yeah.
Doom is my number 4 as well. He's the only one on my list that is not in that God. He was a man. So he's the only one on my list that doesn't have that kind of thing. But we were watching Comic Book Man.
Oh, that's right.
It was Comic Book Man. We were rewatching the whole show. And Stan Lee was on there at one time, and he said to the guys, he was like, so what makes Doom a villain? And they were like, well, he wants to take over the world, and he wants to do this. And he's like, yeah, so does almost everybody else. He's not a villain. He's just wants to take over the world.
He's just a very ambitious guy
who wants to take over the world. And it was wonderful. And hearing Stan Lee talk about it,
here's this guy that's one of the biggest baddies in the entire MCU, and to see Stan Lee just say he's not a villain.
He's not a villain. He does villainous things, but he does them in his mind. He just wants to rule the world. He thinks he could do it better than everybody else.
And hey, the people in his country like him, so
So but he's my number 4 too, Keith. So you and I, we got it.
So
we got that.
So to add to that, he's also my number 4. He made my list at 4 also. So, which I found funny as I'm reading through what everybody's put out there. Yeah. So not only is Dr. Doom as intelligent as Reed Richards, but he's built a power suit that has shown over and over and over again it's more powerful than Iron Man's. And he is a top-level magician that can compete with Doctor Strange.
Yep.
And he builds all these really cool robots that look just like him and go out and do things also. To where the Doom bots, you think you're fighting Dr. Doom and you beat him, and you just beat one of his Doom bots. You didn't even beat him.
Yeah.
So this dude has it all. He is, if speculation's correct about him being the new big bad in the MCU, we're in for a treat. I think the MCU can do him very well, and a Doom focused MCU will be a ton of fun because you're right. He's not really a bad guy. I mean, he's a politician. He's a because he's
dictator, but yeah.
So yeah. Well, but he does.
Dictator and politician, are they the same?
Well, one's from Iowa, but
in the world court, though, in the world court, he very much is a politician when he goes in and represents his country to the UN and other places.
He is. And the thing is, he's also the thing about him is he's charming. He's intelligent. He knows how to manipulate just the common people to think that he is just everything good. And in his own head, he is everything good. And that's the thing that makes, I think, a really good villain is like that compelling story. I think all the villains that we've listed so far, all of us, they all have like these they're not flat.
Yeah.
They have like, they think they're doing good, but they're not. Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Superman. Specifically, Injustice Superman. Yes. Like one of my favorite comics ever, and it's kind of maybe cliche, but is Alan Moore's The Killing Joke. And the whole premise behind the Joker trying to prove that all it takes is one bad day to make anyone go crazy. Well, that has never been more true than in the Injustice series. Yes, it was a video game, but it was also a much more in-depth in the comic books. Yeah. Basically, the Joker uses kryptonite laced with Scarecrow's fear toxin to basically uses it against Superman, makes Superman believe that he is fighting Doomsday when he's not fighting Doomsday. He's fighting Lois Lane. Yeah. So he dies, obviously, as you would. And Superman just snaps. Well, then, if that wasn't bad enough, the Joker then also sets off a nuke in Metropolis and just decimates the city. So Batman is, they catch the Joker. Batman's there with him. He's like trying to, settle things down. Soup shows up and rips the Joker's heart out of his chest and just snaps and becomes an evil dictator and ends up kind of becoming a world ruler. Some of the heroes join him. Some of the villains join him. Some of them don't. And he basically just declares war on anyone and everyone who disagrees with him or tries to oppose him.
So basically it's Kingdom Come done sideways.
Yes.
Sort of, yeah. Very much so.
Yeah. And the video games are a lot of fun to play that way too.
You know it's a great story. If you haven't read the comics though, you should, because there's so much more that goes on in those, and it's a wonderful story.
We always suggest reading the comics too.
Yeah.
Well, as you should. Always check out the comics with it. So we've got a comment, guys. So we've got Amanda here. Here's what she's got to say.
Hey, Amanda.
Hello.
We're glad you're watching, Amanda. And you're right. AJ is exactly right there.
Yep.
Those are the best villains. So, all right. So, Keith, who's your number 5 on our list here?
You know what? Number 5. This really was my first this was my first comic book villain that I can remember when I was little reading comics that truly terrified me.
Mm-hmm.
He was just someone that is just terrifying to look at, but he's also very manipulative, and he truly is someone whose evil is matched by how much he just truly hates pretty much everybody.
Right.
And that's the Red Skull. I just think the Red Skull is just, he is, to me, the textbook villain.
Yeah.
He is just, he's a bad guy.
I absolutely love that picture because it looks totally like if Red Skull was somehow in Pink Floyd's The Wall.
A comedic version of the Red Skull for me is Lord Warfin from Buckaroo Banzai.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I always thought that the way, the way John Lithgow plays the part, he's like a comedic Red Skull without being the Red Skull.
Right.
So yeah.
I like the 1990 movie version of. I can't even say that with a straight face. Never mind.
I'm so going to give him the
That
eye
is
here.
one of the best bad movies ever.
I do agree with you, Keith, on the Red Skull. Like, I remember reading that when I was younger, and he freaked me out. I love them now, but like, that was probably the first character that I was like, he's scary. Like, he's looking. Like, he was scary looking. And when you're a kid, yeah, but I tend to like that now, so it works. But I agree. He's just very, like, when you're little and you're reading it, his look was just so iconically, like, scary. So.
Yeah. It is just, there's just something about that character that he's not cosmically powered. He's not. He's a guy. He is a warrior. Yeah, he just hates. He is a villain that just hates everybody. Right. Even if you're going with his plan, chances are you don't live up to what he thinks you should be anyway. He's going to offer you the first chance he gets anyway. He just hates. He is the living embodiment of what haterade would taste like.
Well, there's something cool about the DC Marvel mashup where it had the Joker meeting the Red Skull and then looking at him and going, "Dude, I'm crazy and I'm a bad guy, but I'm not a Nazi."
Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
So yeah, I'm with you, man.
Who's my number 5 is probably somebody that's a little lesser known, but it's Necron. And if you don't know Necron, he is one of the rogues from the Green Lantern. He is amazing. He basically, does these swirls of black and can like reanimate corpses. He's also like one of the only villains. He's enslaved Superman and Wonder Woman, and he was
behind Blackest Night, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He is just awesome. His power set is, again, he's like a god. So his power set is one of those crazy ones, and but there's something. It's one of those ones that when I read it the comic that he was in that I read the first time, like just the idea of him like reanimating like all these dead people and just using them as this mindless army to just go against people. It was just a very like graphic, beautifully artistic thing, and the photos or the images of him in comics are just so beautifully done. He is just very like artistically done, and I like
I want to
that.
see an Alex Ross Necron.
Ooh.
That would be gorgeous.
Yeah, that would be
Ooh.
interesting. Yeah.
Look at that dude, and then picture Alex Ross. Painting him. I can't even say drawing, but painting him.
No, that would be really.
That would be awesome.
That would be really cool. Yeah.
I have
So
to.
I picked him not only for his power set and because he has really good storylines. Plus, I find that like a lot of the times people forget that the Green Lantern has his own rogues gallery, and Necron is one of those that he is just he's massively powerful, but he is just beautifully drawn and inked and everything. Like it's just beautiful. I love the color scheme of it, and the stories are great too. So that's always good when you have like good art and good story.
It's true.
That's a thing.
So let me get this right. Red Skull scares you. Necron's cool. Got it. Okay.
Wait a minute. I read that, and Red Skull scared me as a kid. This is
okay.
Yeah,
Somewhat. I don't know. I guess he's been around for a while.
He's been around for a while, but I didn't read him.
Used more in recent years.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't read him as a kid. I read him as read the comics with him in it as an adult, and like I don't get scared of stuff now. Like,
you see this stuff behind us here?
You see this? Oh. Nothing scares me anymore.
And I had Ace go first simply because I knew it would set me up for my number 5. Speaking of Green Lanterns, it is actually the Hal Jordan when he became Parallax. Granted, just one brief little story, but not only was it terrifying, it was heartbreaking. It was, more importantly, he was right. And and the conclusion of that story was beautiful. I mean, so you've got the fight with Doomsday had just wrapped up. This was the first big DC crossover event after Doomsday, and it was like right after Doomsday.
Yeah.
So Coastal City has been destroyed. Everyone that Hal Jordan knows and loves has been killed, and he just tries like hell to bring the city back with his ring. And of course, Hal is known for having, a mad amount of will, but even he couldn't pull that off. So he kind of goes crazy. He's like, I need more power. So he goes back to Oa. He kills every other Green Lantern, takes the battery and puts on everyone's rings. And he's just running around all crazy trying to do this. Finally, he breaks down and takes the actual battery that powers all of the Lantern's rings and wears it as a suit, takes on the name Parallax, and decides that he is going to destroy the universe and rebuild it at the exact same moment, but everything will be perfect. But because they hear the word destroy, of course, all the heroes come to try to defeat him and try to stop him. And he's looking at Superman and saying, imagine a world where you can still be Superman. You can still be with Lois. You can still have everything you have now, but Krypton is still here. Your parents are still alive. You can have that. Bruce, your parents can still be alive, but if you want to still be Batman, by all means, be Batman. No sorrow, no pain, no nothing. And of course, they're all trying to stop him. Well, then this other threat shows up that none of everybody can defeat. And so they're like, please, Hal, you're the only one powerful enough. And he just...
Oh, yeah. I remember that story. Yeah, it was called Disco. Oh, wait a minute. No. Hold on. No, wait. Sorry. No, wrong story. I'm sorry. I misremembered that one.
It's just that moment where he looks at Superman and he's like, you're fighting me on all of this stuff, and now you know that I'm right, and now you're asking for my help. And he's like, fine, I'll help you. Snarky grin. Grabs the bad guy and flies him into the sun while quoting the Green Lantern oath the entire way. And for 3 days, the sun burned green and Superman had no power. Just a nice little middle finger.
Look for me. I always see the Green Lantern as being the metaphor for police officers. So To me, that particular storyline with Hal, it was just bad lieutenant on a galactic scale. You know, Harvey Keitel as Green Lantern losing his S. So again, I love Green Lantern. Hal Jordan is my favorite Green Lantern. While that is a great story,
has a very close second.
Say what?
That although Kyle Rayner for me is a very close second.
Yeah, Kyle's cool. Kyle's cool, but I'm a big Hal Jordan, John Stewart fan. You know, I think the two of those guys. Guy is great because he affects those guys in different ways, and he's an a-hole for the sake of being an a-hole, and he knows it. You know, that's the great thing about Guy.
You're exactly right.
I mean, and you add in Kyle Rayner, and what you have is a Green Lantern version of the A-Team. So
it's true. That is true.
with John Stewart. John Stewart really would be the leader in that particular, you know, because Hal is definitely face.
Yeah.
You know?
And Guy's Murdoch.
Actually, no, Guy would be B.A. Baracus because he's an a-hole. He'd be the a-hole B.A. Baracus.
And then you can bring in Nort to be Murdoch.
Well, we
love Nort.
Pilot to J.J. Abrams' Green Lantern series. There. Make sure you sign those checks correctly. So,
all right, guys, let me give you my number 5. My number 5 is one you guys may not know unless you're Legion of Superheroes fans. It is from the Fatal 5. We have Validius. So, for those that don't know, he is a super powerful character who is pretty much very childlike, and people easily manipulate him. He is considered to be 12 times stronger than Superboy.
What?
Yeah, that was, I was reading that. I knew that he was super strong. The only time he's gotten knocked down was with a combination of Superboy, Mon-El, and Ultra Boy hitting him at the same time. So he stands, was it 15 foot tall, I believe, and monstrous guy, super strong, considered to be able to break a planet in half if he tried to do that. He also shoots beams from his head that can take out a Kryptonian with one shot.
What?
Yeah, but he's not a guy who's sitting around thinking about how to take over the world. He's very childlike, and there's different mythos. One of them being that Time Trapper went back and took one of Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl's children back in time, deformed them, and then made them into Validius. So yeah, it's a really interesting character, and the fact basically he's introduced with the Fatal 5 during a time of crisis with the Legion, where you have this thing called the Sun Eater coming, and it's going to destroy the universe and eat all of the stars, including Earth's sun. And basically, they team up together, and he is just badass the entire time. But he's basically being controlled by Emerald Empress. She's telling him what to do. He's just doing what she says. And Darkseid has been known to control him extensively. So he's easily controllable. But he's a fun character because you can bring all of the most toughest members of the Legion of Superhero against him at one time. He just looks at him. I mean, you pretty much have to really hit him hard with your big hitters to even do any damage. So,
wow.
Huh.
I didn't know that about him.
Like I've seen it before. I've heard the name.
My father was a huge Legion of Superheroes fan, so I read all the comics from the 60s when my father started collecting them on. And he would actually get a subscription in the mail. Every month would come in a Playboy, Legion of Superheroes, and Justice League. So
one of these books is not like the other.
We got a magazine with naked women and a book with a guy called Arm Fall Off Lad in it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I wonder why his arms are falling off.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm leaving that alone.
All the bases are covered.
We gotta be a PG show, guys.
I know. We're right on the verge, and I took us there.
It was all really on like, underlying. You're grown up, you'll understand what we're talking about.
I wasn't insinuating anything with the arm fall off. No, I really wasn't. That literally, I'm like, what was so bad about? Oh, wow! I wish I had thought of that because that's hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway. My father was an avid reader of Legion.
That comic book. What are you talking about?
My father was an avid Legion fan, and I always perked up when it was a Fatal 5 issue because I loved the latest. I always thought he was such a cool character because he didn't have bad intent. He's just being controlled by people. And he could just do major damage. So I love a character that, okay, but he's not doing it because he's mean. He's just on the wrong side.
Right. No, I like it. I'm going to have to read those now. So did we have any that almost made our list, guys? Like any, like...
I thought strongly about doing Mojo. I love Mojo. I would love to see an X-Men movie with Mojo World. I think it would be the most just insane 2 hours and however many minutes of movie time you would ever see with a superhero in it. And if you want to shake things up, bring in Mojo.
Well, and you could do it with the first person camera sort of shaking stuff because that's exactly, it's being shot as a game. So. Yeah.
Did you guys have anybody who almost made your list but didn't quite?
There was. I have a really surprising name that almost made my close to top list, and that was Poison Ivy. Yeah, and Pamela is one of the most fascinating characters. Period. She is brilliant. She is gorgeous beyond words, and she will kill you without even thinking about it. I mean, she is just
so a typical redhead.
It's the thing. I don't know. He likes redheads too. It's the thing. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's a comic book fan thing. Like most of the guys I know who are comic book fans are like, and she's a redhead, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I think it's Mary Jane. Like I feel like
face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot.
Mary Jane is a really, really good character. I love. To me, she is the ultimate kind of balance out for Peter. I just think of her as a character. She is just such a really, really just down to earth, really cool character. She is the every person in those books, in a way that Peter is kind of like the lovable loser many times.
Right.
And she is a total look. She is so out of his league.
Yeah. Yes. She has that line perfect. Well, and she was such a party girl when she was first introduced. That was what she was supposed to be. Because you had Gwen Stacy, who was the good girl that was the daughter of the police captain and all that. And then you had Mary Jane, the party girl that liked to go have fun. And, hey, Peter, if you want to go have fun, great. If you don't, well, forget it. I'm going to go have fun without you. So, Yeah,
Right.
I love Mary Jane. So, but we'll be talking about Mary Jane and other side characters next week. So you guys should definitely tune in next week
Yeah.
for our side characters, superhero side characters discussion, because I guarantee Mary Jane will be talked about again then. Because we're not on my list.
I better warn you, though, for my money, ultimately, I'm just going to have to put these guys to the side. Look, everybody that isn't Batman is a side character, and they're all cool. They work really well together. I mean, seriously.
I'm already trying to formulate a list in my head, and I'm like, you can't do Alfred because everyone's going to do Alfred.
Well, yeah, well,
and that doesn't mean he shouldn't be on the list if he's one of those important side characters for you. So.
I mean, for me, it's all of them, because whether you're talking, Richard, Jason, Tim, Damian, I mean, all of them, and to me, they're just. I'd have to really just okay, this is my list of characters outside of the Batman characters. This is my list.
I've had to do that, Keith. I've had to do that with certain ones. Like I did the superhero. Like when we did Marvel things, I didn't do X-Men because it's such its own thing, and I'm like it would eat into all of it. But yeah, so next week we're going to talk about the side characters, our top 5 favorite side characters. I don't know who's all joining us next week, but you guys are welcome to come back.
You are.
I
just may.
I will say this: if you're going to do this, try to make it interesting. Side characters that don't always get the spot. The non-obvious ones, the ones that don't get a lot of attention, like Ron Troop. Ron Troop is one of the best Superman characters that a majority of people do not know. He is the best reporter at the Daily Planet.
Right.
Full stop.
Yeah.
He is Lois Lane's brother-in-law. He is just a darn good guy. He is the good guy, and he works hard. No superpowers. He's just good. He's just a good guy, and Lucy treats him like, so he's a great character.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think with us, if you guys are joining us again, I know we all have such unique perspectives when we read comics and what resonates with us and stuff like that. So it's going to be great. It's going to be next Tuesday, right, Professor? Are we still on
Yes,
Tuesday?
it should be next Tuesday. Yes, ma'am.
Tuesday.
It should be back at the regular 6:30 time.
Yeah. So you guys come and join us if you guys would like. We always ask that, and if you guys are watching us, please comment. We want to hear what you have to say. That's one of the reasons Keith's on here, is because he started commenting before we went on live. And we were like, just come on with us.
Well, and with that, feel free to put comments in here or put comments on the website about who you think would be on your list of both villains, and also put on who you would have as your side characters.
Okay, for a moment there, the way you left that, I was thinking, is it my eternal S list? Because I got a few names on that one, but.
Okay, so be sure to check us out on GeekyKOOL.com.
It's your one-stop shop for all things nerd.
There you go.
And it has a new look if you've not checked it out.
Yeah, and we're on YouTube and Facebook. Go give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube. And then we have our friends. 2 of them joined us today. We had we had Tim and Josh from the Nerd Informants on a couple weeks ago. Tim and Josh are awesome. We love them. Go check them out on YouTube and Facebook. I can't wait until they get into more movies actually getting released this year,
right,
so they can do reviews. They're great at that. And then we have. Are you ready?
What?
Oh, we have Skallywag. Check him out on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook as well. Go give him a subscribe. Go give him a subscribe on YouTube. Check out his videos, and give him a like on Facebook, and you can follow him on Instagram. He shows off the collection behind him. And then, of course, we have Keith and Twitter. Yep. And we have Keith and Gary over at Popculture Minefield.
Him and Gary.
But they are great. Now, I will tell you this. We try to keep our videos a little PG. We do sometimes go into a little bit. They don't necessarily. So if you want to let's face it, Keith. You know it's true. But
Well, it's
my favorite
not
part
usually
of
Keith's fault.
my favorite part about their show is when Gary starts talking and Keith starts cracking up, and all you hear is laughter, and it's amazing.
And it's pretty easy to make Keith crack up.
It's fun. It is my favorite part. But then they have all kinds of scoops. They have all kinds of scoops and interviews, and they just know everyone. So check them out. And as always, guys, be sure to comment, like, subscribe to all of our friends and us. And if you want more information on maybe writing for us or doing something like this, let us know. Hit one of us up, and we'll try to make that happen for you guys. So until next time, it's Ace and the Professor.
And Shpoo from Skallywag Productions.
Yeah. I've got
And of course, Popculture Minefield. Woo.
Yeah.
So
are we good, Professor?
we're good. Stay geeky, guys.
Bye, guys.
Till next week.
See you soon.